The word on the street was that the Playboy CEO, Matthew Cooper, had a new taste in women. He'd apparently fallen for a little drama queen. I had been sent to his mountaintop villa to oversee her day-to-day needs. The instant Vivian laid eyes on me, her expression soured. In the stories, a gorgeous housekeeper like this is always the boss's secret assistant, handling his affairs by day and, well, other things by night. Is that her role? A polite smile hovered on my lips, twitching just enough to betray my irritation. Wonderful. For the first time in my career as a highly paid private butler, my reputation was being questioned based on the plot of a cliche romance novel. Matthew, clearly surprised by her remark, threw me a quick glance. Then he draped an arm around Vivian's shoulder, his usual relaxed drawl tinged with amusement. "Darling, what's going on in that head of yours?" Miss Quinn earned her position with real skill. She makes my life so much easier. He gave me a pointed look. My assistants are never expected to play such games, and I certainly wouldn't keep her around if she were. Vivian let out a faint, "Oh," though her gaze lingered on me with suspicion, as if reading a hidden agenda. She pouted, a mixture of challenge and irritation in her voice. But that's how it always is in the novels. The capable, beautiful housekeeper is never just a housekeeper. She appraised me with the air of someone convinced she'd caught a secret. My salary allowed me to tolerate the whims of this capricious CEO whose romantic partners changed more often than the software on my phone, typically lasting no more than 3 months. My principle was simple: serve the boss, ignore distractions, and focus on the work that mattered. I offered a calm, professional smile and inclined my head. "Indeed, Miss Shaw, I am Mr. Cooper's household manager. I assure you, my professionalism is absolute." Her annoyance flickered across her face. She lifted her chin, letting out a small huff. "Who knows what you're really here for?" "Matthew, look at her. She's so cold. Doesn't she welcome me?" Matthew caught my eye and subtly signaled with one finger behind Vivian's back. Bonus secured. I restored my serene smile. With a playful tap to her nose, Matthew led Vivian toward her room. "Stop overthinking. Let me show you to your room, and if anything isn't right, Miss Quinn will handle it." Vivian opened her mouth to protest, but ultimately held back. Once they were out of sight, I exhaled quietly. Money made you do strange things. Unfortunately, Vivian's billionaire romance novel syndrome kicked in full force. The next morning at breakfast, I set Matthew's usual Blue Mountain coffee and his financial newspaper in their usual places. Vivian, wrapped in a silk robe, frowned at the glass of milk placed for her. "Miss Quinn," she began, emphasizing my name with deliberate precision. "This milk is all wrong. I require milk from an Australian cow, milked at dawn, bathed in the first rays of the southern hemisphere sun. It must be warmed to exactly 37.5 degrees by the hands of an 82-year-old virgin. Not a fraction more or less." I had no words. Matthew, absorbed in a report, didn't look up. "Australian cows are asleep, and I doubt an 82-year-old virgin can control the temperature precisely. The milk is airship from Hokkaido, Japan," he added. "It's excellent. Drink it while it's warm." Vivian glared at me as if I alone were responsible for her fantastical standards. Later that day, while I was instructing the gardener on pruning roses, she insisted on trying it herself. A thorn barely nicked her finger. The tiniest drop of blood appeared, and she acted as though she'd been mortally wounded. With tears streaming down her face, she ran to Matthew, crying, "Matthew, it hurts. I feel so dizzy." Vivian held up her finger, the barely noticeable cut now practically invisible, right in front of Matthew. Matthew set aside his documents, examined her finger for a moment, and exhaled. "It's fine, the cut is tiny. Have Miss Quinn put a bandage on it." "A bandage?" Vivian's voice climbed an octave, dripping with disbelief. "Matthew, don't you love me anymore?" As Matthew and I exchanged bewildered glances, she jabbed a finger in my direction. "How can you dismiss my injury with a mere bandage? This butler is clearly at fault. Shouldn't you? As the domineering CEO, demand an immediate 800 cubic centimeters blood donation as proof of loyalty to me." I took a steadying breath, keeping my face neutral while my mind spun. 800 centimeters of blood for a paper cut? Am I supposed to call the ICU next and I'm the culprit? "You touch the roses!" Matthew's brow furrowed in exasperation. He released her hand, his voice sharp with disapproval. "Vivian, first, Charlotte is a butler, not a human blood bank. Second, your blood type doesn't even match. And third, the cut would have healed on its own if you'd waited a bit. What exactly would you have done with her blood? Water the roses. Vivian's face turned red and white in alternating bursts. She stomped her foot. You're not following the script. You're supposed to act like a domineering CEO. Then her glare shifted to me. Matthew rubbed his forehead. I'm just a businessman. Quinn, get the first aid kit. And while you're at it, give Miss Shaw a quick lesson on basic medical facts and the Blood Donation Act. Yes, Mr. Cooper, I said, fighting to keep a smirk hidden as I excused myself gracefully. This became our daily routine. Vivian threw tantrums over slippers that weren't made of crystal. Matthew, ever rational, would say, crystal slippers are uncomfortable. These silk-embroidered ones are much better. She demanded he black out the entire city to create a romantic stargazing setting. Rational Matthew replied, the power grid isn't mine to control, and doing so would create mass panic, economic losses, and a serious legal issue. Naturally, I wasn't spared either. When I handed her a towel, she would deliberately drop it, expecting me to kneel and retrieve it. I simply ignored her and signaled to Mrs. Davis, our headmaid, who retrieved it with her usual expressionless efficiency. Her favorite question was always the same. Miss Quinn, why don't you tell me? Miss Shaw, you're the first woman Mr. Cooper has ever brought home. I had to resist the urge to respond. Miss, do you know how many firsts there have been this year? Including you, I've accommodated 4 first women. Miss Lee stayed in the left guest room, Miss Wong in the right, and the master bedroom. I've lost track of the sheets I've changed. As for servicing him at night, my overtime rates are high and strictly professional. On the surface, I maintain my standard butler smile. Miss Shaw, Mr. Cooper's private affairs are not my concern. My responsibility is your comfort during your stay. She was never satisfied, convinced I harbored hidden schemes, ready to play the role of the vicious rival tormenting the innocent heroine. At first, Matthew found her antics entertaining and even played along with her CEO falls for me fantasy for a few days. But his patience didn't last. Time was money, and as a successful businessman, he had little tolerance for tantrums and unnecessary trouble. Soon, Vivian's behavior started to cross his threshold. He began retreating to his study or taking business dinners as an excuse to stay out late. Vivian noticed his distance naturally, blaming me for the growing gap. Vivian stepped up her campaign to make my life miserable, determined to undermine me in front of Matthew and secure her place as the leading lady. Miss Quinn, the vase in my room is angled wrong. It's ruining my luck. Adjust it 100 times until it's perfect. Miss Quinn, for dinner, I want white truffles from Alba of France. I want them now. If you can't provide them, it proves your incompetence. Miss Quinn, I don't like the scent of your perfume. You are forbidden from wearing it ever again. The only fragrance I ever wore was the neutral sanitizing scent of hand soap. I sidestepped her ridiculous demands whenever possible, using Matthew as a shield whenever necessary. Mr. Cooper has specified that all such requests require his personal approval. Mr. Cooper is currently in a meeting and cannot be disturbed at this time. Her glares became more venomous with each deflection, as if I were the ultimate obstacle in her quest for Matthew's heart. It was only a matter of time before she escalated to a dramatic climax. One day, during a torrential downpour, Matthew had an important overseas video conference. He had left strict instructions that he must not be disturbed. Vivian, apparently inspired by some romance novel, appeared at his study door in a soaking white dress, shivering theatrically and insisting she had to enter to bring him warmth. Naturally, I stepped in. Miss Shaw, Mr. Cooper is in an important meeting. He specifically ordered that no one disturb him. Not even me, she asked, tears welling up. I'm the woman he loves most. Look at me. I'm soaked. He'll be worried sick. Or are you just keeping me out so you can sneak in and perform for him yourself? Mr. Cooper will check on you as soon as his meeting concludes. Please return to your room and change into dry clothes to avoid catching a cold. My tone remained calm and firm, unmoved by her theatrics. Suddenly, she lunged, attempting to push past me. I sidestepped, placing myself strategically in front of the doorway. In a flurry of exaggerated grace, she stumbled and collapsed to the floor, covering her face and sobbing. Oh, Miss Quinn, why did you push me? I know you're jealous, but I only wanted to protect Matthew. I could only stare in disbelief. At that moment, the study door opened. Matthew, taking a short break, had clearly heard the commotion. He surveyed the scene, Vivian on the floor, tears streaming and me standing composed and his brow furrowed. What's happening? Vivian immediately launched into her performance. Matthew, It's not Miss Quinn. I just lost my balance. She only tried to stop me from bothering you, gave me a tiny push. It was really gentle. I'm just fragile. She probably didn't mean it. She's just so concerned about you." Her manipulative act was flawless. Matthew's gaze shifted to me. I bowed lightly. "Mr. Cooper, I merely blocked Miss Shaw's path. There was no physical contact. Perhaps Miss Shaw slipped on her own," I added, indicating the ceiling. "There's a security camera in the hallway. You can review the footage." At the mention of the camera, Vivian's face drained of color. Matthew's eyes flickered between us before settling on Vivian, his expression unreadable. "Vivian, I told you the meeting was important. Return to your room. Stop making a scene." He hadn't entirely believed her, but he hadn't punished her either. This neutral stance only fueled Vivian's insecurity and resentment. As she was helped to her feet, she shot me a glare that promised this drama was far from over. Sure enough, a few days later, Matthew left for an overseas business trip to finalize a major project. Before departing, he gave me a rare, specific instruction. "Keep an eye on her. Don't let her cause any trouble." "Understood." "Mr. Cooper?" I replied. Yet, barely a day after he left, trouble arrived. The moment Matthew's jet left the runway, Vivian decided it was time to claim the throne. She summoned every member of the household staff to the living room, lounging regally on the main sofa as if she owned the place. "Since Matthew isn't here," she announced, looking down her nose at us, "I'm now in charge. There will be some personnel changes." Her finger landed squarely on me. "Miss Quinn has grown arrogant and improper. Effective immediately, she's stripped of her position as head butler. From now on, she'll serve as a regular maid responsible for cleaning all the toilets." A collective gasp rippled through the staff. Everyone stared wide-eyed, first at her, then at me. Me cleaning toilets? The insult was almost comical. I kept my face composed, though inwardly I couldn't help but scoff. "Miss Shaw," I said evenly, "under my employment contract, any change in position or duties requires Mr. Cooper's signed authorization." Vivian clearly thought she'd anticipated that. She slammed a sheet of paper onto the table. Matthew gave me full authority before he left. "I'm in charge now." Her smile was sharp, predatory. "Charlotte Quinn, don't think your night services give you special privileges. How else could a woman like you earn a 7-figure salary? We all know what you really traded for it." I looked at the so-called authorization letter. The signature did resemble Matthew's, but the handwriting was tense and unnatural, forced. My stomach tightened. Was this signature forged? To seize power and humiliate me, she would dare falsify his name. Did she realize how severe the consequences would be if I reported it? Vivian took my silence as submission and smirked triumphantly. "Now go scrub the toilets. I expect to see my reflection in them when you're done, or you won't get dinner tonight." Her laughter filled the room, shrill and self-satisfied, as if she were already picturing me kneeling before her. Amid the mixed looks from the staff, some pitying, others curious, I replied coolly, "Miss Shaw, I will not comply." Her grin vanished. "What did you just say? You dare defy me? I'm the mistress of this house." "Correction," I said calmly. "Your status is that of a guest. My employer is Mr. Cooper. Unless I receive a direct, personally verified order from him, my position remains unchanged. Until then, I will not perform duties outside the scope of my contract. Since you've refused my professional services, I'll take my leave and await Mr. Cooper's return for clarification." I turned to go. A short break suddenly sounded like a reward. "Stop right there!" Vivian shrieked, her voice breaking. "Did I say you could leave? I didn't stop." She had no authority to give me orders. Not even Matthew could prevent me from walking out if I decided to. Stop her. "Someone stop her!" she screamed, but the senior staff and security guards knew better. They were well aware of my standing with Mr. Cooper and of how much he loathed people who overstepped their authority. No one moved. They simply looked at one another, uneasy and silent. Vivian's rage flared hotter, seeing me stride away unbothered. She lunged, grabbing my arm. Her nails dug sharply into my skin. "Charlotte, you're nothing but a servant, a shameless woman who slept her way to the top." She spat, her voice dripping venom. "You think Matthew cares about you? He's just using you. I'll make sure you remember who's in charge here." Her mask of innocence shattered completely, replaced by something wild and ugly. I pulled my arm free, my tone cold. Miss Shaw, I advise you to stop before this goes any further. If you persist, I'll have no choice but to contact my lawyer for defamation and assault." Vivian laughed hysterically. "A lawyer? You think you scare me?" Her eyes gleamed with fury. "Even if I kill you right now, Matthew wouldn't dare blame me. He loves me. What are you compared to me?" Before anyone could react, she snatched a porcelain vase from the table and swung it at my head. Her movement was sudden, vicious, pure madness. Gasps filled the room. No one had expected her to actually attack. My instincts kicked in. I tried to move, but she was too close. I felt the rush of air as the vase sliced toward my temple. Then a furious voice thundered from behind. "Vivian, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Matthew appeared out of nowhere, catching Vivian's wrist just as the vase was about to crash into my head. There was a sharp crack, followed by Vivian's scream. The priceless porcelain slipped from her grasp, shattering into countless shards across the marble floor. The room froze. He stood in the doorway, still wearing his travel suit, his ties slightly loosened, his expression carved from ice. Every ounce of warmth had drained from his eyes, leaving behind a cold, lethal rage. He wasn't supposed to be back until tomorrow. Vivian's wild confidence instantly vanished, replaced by terror. She clutched her wrist, tears welling in her eyes. "Matthew, you're hurting me, please." I didn't mean to. It was her. She provoked me first. He released her with a violent flick of his hand. Vivian stumbled backward, barely keeping her balance, her voice dying at the sight of his expression. Matthew didn't spare a glance at the shattered vase. His gaze locked on me instead, scanning quickly for injuries. "Charlotte," he said, his tone low and tight. "Are you hurt?" I studied my breathing before answering. "I'm fine, Mr. Cooper. Thank you." Only then did a trace of tension ease from his jaw, but when his attention returned to Vivian, the air seemed to drop a few degrees. He took slow, deliberate steps toward her, each one echoing like a drumbeat of judgment. "Provoke you. Even if you kill her, it doesn't matter." His voice was calm, almost quiet, but the anger beneath it was unmistakable. "Tell me, Vivian, where did you get the courage to say something like that?" She flinched as though struck, trembling under the weight of his fury. "I wasn't serious. I just lost my temper. She was bullying me, and you didn't defend me. I just wanted to scare her." Her voice cracked. "I'm your woman, Matthew. How could you side with her?" His reply was colder than any storm. "Vivian, you still don't understand your place. Charlotte isn't some servant you can order around. She runs this household, coordinates my business affairs, and manages everything that keeps my life functioning smoothly. She's trusted, efficient, and irreplaceable." He leaned in slightly, his words sharp enough to cut. "If anything had happened to her here, do you realize what that would mean? You wouldn't just be in jail. My reputation, my company, everything I've built would be jeopardized because of your tantrum." His gaze ran over her, filled with undisguised contempt. "And you think you're fit to compare yourself to her? You can't even control yourself for 5 minutes." Vivian's face crumpled, her tears flowing freely now. "You're yelling at me for her," she cried. "You care about her. Don't deny it, Matthew. You care." Matthew rubbed his temples, the exhaustion clear in his posture. I couldn't help but think that perhaps a little chaos was good for him. He had, after all, invited it into his own home. I drew in a slow breath before explaining what had happened. "Miss Shaw claimed she'd been given full control over the villa and its staff," I said. "She had even presented a letter of authorization supposedly signed by you, but I believe the signature was forged." I retrieved the document from the table and handed it to Matthew. Vivian's expression drained of color. "She's lying!" she screamed. "Matthew, don't listen to her. You told me I could do whatever I wanted while you were gone." A humorless laugh escaped him. "Vivian, I said you could shop with my credit card, not play forged document games or start firing my staff." He glanced at the paper once, then slammed it onto the table. "This signature style, it's from 3 years ago. I changed it long ago." His tone turned sharp enough to cut glass. "Where did you even find the sample? With a forgery this? Are you not afraid of ending up in prison?" Vivian's mouth opened, but no words came out. She simply trembled, her tears pooling but offering her no defense. That's when Mrs. Davis, who had been quietly observing the whole time, finally spoke up, her tone strained with contained anger. "Mr. Cooper, forgive me for speaking so frankly, but Miss Shaw has been a nightmare since you left. She bullies Miss Quinn constantly and treats the rest of us like garbage. She even demanded we call her the first woman you've ever brought home, and if we didn't, she accused us of jealousy." Another maid stepped forward hesitantly. "She also kept touching the papers in your study, saying she was looking for a surrogate contract. Miss Quinn stopped her several times, but she always turned it around, accusing Miss Quinn of hiding things." A few others chimed in, each one adding another layer to the chaos Vivian had caused. Her tantrums, threats, and attempts to invade Matthew's private study. The more he listened, the darker Matthew's face became. What he thought were harmless quirks now revealed themselves as full-blown delusion and malice. When everyone had spoken, he turned back to Vivian, his patience gone. "Vivian, do you have anything left to say?" His tone made it clear this was her last chance. "Considering what you've done, I should call the police," he said flatly. "But I won't. Pack your things and leave today. We're finished." Vivian looked around wildly at the staff, who avoided her gaze, then back at Matthew, who didn't even glance her way. And then, as if something snapped, her fear twisted into a kind of crazed clarity. Her lips trembled, but her eyes burned with fanatic conviction. "I see it now," she cried. "You've been blinded by her. That manipulative woman has turned everyone against me. You'll see someday that she's the real villain, not me." Her attention snapped to me, eyes glinting with furious hatred. "Charlotte Quinn, don't get smug. You framed me, but this isn't the end. Every great love story has a separation arc. When Matthew realizes who you really are, he'll come running back to me, and you'll be the one destroyed. You'll be the one in ashes." The room went silent. Even the guards hesitated, unsure if they should laugh or pity her. Matthew pinched the bridge of his nose, visibly exhausted. "Enough," he muttered, then louder to the bodyguards. "Pack her things and escort her out. She's banned from all my homes and offices. Effective immediately." "Matthew, you can't do this!" Vivian screamed as they dragged her toward the door, her voice echoing down the hall. "You'll regret this. I'm your heroine." Her cries faded as the doors closed behind her, leaving behind only silence and the faint hum of tension finally starting to dissolve. Vivian's voice faded down the hall, leaving the living room heavy with a thick, awkward silence. Matthew finally turned to me, a rare mixture of apology and exhaustion shadowing his features. "Charlotte, I'm truly sorry you had to go through that today." I shook my head gently, maintaining a calm, professional tone. "It's quite all right, Mr. Cooper. It was unexpected, but manageable." He looked at me for a moment, searching for words, but only a sigh escaped. "Your handling of the situation was professional and restrained. I appreciate that." He hesitated, then offered a small gesture of goodwill. "How about this? Your wedding leave is coming up next month, right? I can extend it by another month, fully paid, as a small compensation." I smiled politely and shook my head. "Thank you for the offer, Mr. Cooper, but that won't be necessary." I paused briefly, then stated clearly. "Actually, I had already planned to resign after my wedding. My fiancé prefers that I not continue working as a private butler in someone else's household after we marry. Today's events have only accelerated that decision. I'll begin the handover process immediately." Matthew looked genuinely surprised. He opened his mouth as if to protest, then let out another resigned sigh. "Very well. I respect your decision. You've worked hard and done well. I'll have the finance team calculate your final salary and bonus at the highest possible rate," he added. "Thank you, Mr. Cooper," I replied with a slight bow. "If there's nothing further, I will begin arranging the handover." Over the next month, I carefully transitioned all my duties while also focusing on wedding preparations. During that time, Mrs. Davis would call to update me on Vivian's antics. Even after being expelled from the villa, she hadn't given up. She remained completely absorbed in her self-created role as a tragic romance heroine. Convinced that Matthew would soon return to her side, she staged clumsy attempts at meet-cuties straight out of novels. Once she rented a city bike and timed it so Matthew's car would drive past. She pretended to stumble dramatically, clutching her chest as if wounded. "Sir, don't worry. It's not your fault. I don't need a hospital. I must get back to my delivery work." She looked eagerly at the car's tinted window, waiting for Matthew's concerned face. Unfortunately for her, the window stayed shut. A bodyguard calmly explained, "Ma'am, the dashcam shows no contact. If you need help, we can call an ambulance or the police." Vivian's face fell, muttering, That's not right. The male lead is supposed to come rushing out and carry me to his car. On another occasion, she sneaked into a high-end private club Matthew frequented, disguised as a waitress in a poor-fitting uniform. She loitered outside his usual private room, only to be confronted by the manager. She reacted like a startled rabbit, screaming, "Don't touch me! Let me go!" and deliberately dropped a tray, making a loud crash. But it wasn't Matthew who appeared. It was his assistant. The manager, confused, said, I was just asking if she's new. I didn't touch her." The assistant shot Vivian a cold look and said, "Mr. Cooper does not wish to be disturbed." How did she even get in here? As security escorted her out, she yelled after the room, "Matthew, I know you're in there. Are you just going to let them bully me?" Her desperate stunts never earned Matthew's sympathy. If anything, they annoyed him further, prompting tighter security around him. Mrs. Davis sighed as she relayed the stories. "It's like the girl's possessed. Do you really think she's living in a TV drama?" At last, my wedding day arrived. The ceremony took place at a stunning outdoor estate, surrounded by gardens in full bloom. My fiancé, Julian Vance, a tech magnate even more influential than Matthew, stood by my side, his eyes warm and full of love. Every past irritation and trials seemed to melt away in that moment. Guests filled the venue, a mix of close friends and prominent business figures, including several people who had worked with my former employer. Matthew had also received an invitation and had arrived punctually. The ceremony itself was heartfelt and romantic. As Julian and I exchanged vows, the tenderness in his gaze made all previous difficulties feel trivial. Afterwards, congratulations poured in. Several industry leaders who had once tried to recruit me came forward with enthusiastic praise. "Charlotte, congratulations. Matthew Cooper has truly lost a capable right hand." A real estate tycoon toasted with a smile. "More than that, he's lost his indispensable manager. Mrs. Vance, if you ever decide to return to the field, our doors are open. Name your price?" An internet mogul added, part joyous. "It's true, her organizational skills and professionalism are renowned. Any company would be lucky to have her. There's no doubt she's out of reach now. Even a $10 million offer wouldn't tempt her back." The atmosphere was light, festive, and full of admiration. Then a harsh, screeching voice cut through the celebration. "Ha! Do you really believe a woman could earn millions just by running someone's house?" All eyes turned toward the intruder. Vivian had somehow sneaked in. She wore a long, disheveled white dress, her hair a tangled mess, and her eyes burned with obsessive intensity fixed solely on me. She stormed up, jabbed a finger toward me, and screamed at the guests. "You've all been deceived. This Charlotte Quinn is nothing but a cheap opportunist who slept her way to the top. Who would pay a butler that much otherwise? She earned it in bed, not through skill." Turning toward Julian, her voice grew shrill. "And you? Do you even know who you married? She's just Matthew Cooper's discarded toy. You think you found treasure, but all you've gotten is trash." She scanned the crowd, anticipating ridicule, condemnation, or shock directed at me, but the reaction she expected never came. The guests didn't join her tirade. Instead, they stared at Vivian with a mix of confusion, disbelief, and pity, as if witnessing someone unravel before their eyes. Vivian froze, uncomprehending, and shouted, "What's wrong with all of you? Why aren't you insulting her?" She turned on the crowd, voice quivering. A shameless woman like her should be publicly shamed. A butler earning $9 million a year. Isn't that outrageous? Mr. Jeng of Helios Corporation frowned, his expression sharp. "Miss Shaw, is there anyone here who doesn't recognize Mrs. Vance's talent and worth? $9 million was a bargain Matthew got lucky with." He added, "If Charlotte weren't marrying Julian, I was ready to offer $15 million to see if she would manage my new projects as my executive assistant." "Exactly." Another guest said, "Charlotte helped coordinate my charity gala, and her work was flawless, thoughtful, meticulous, better than any professional event company I've hired." A prominent businesswoman, a partner of Julian's, glanced at Vivian with clear disdain. "When your mind is twisted, you see filth everywhere. That's all this is." Julian stepped forward, voice icy. "Miss Shaw, do you have evidence for these claims? Because if not, they're slanderous." He positioned himself slightly in front of me, his gaze sharp and unwavering. "Are you insulting my wife's work or the intelligence of everyone here?" Matthew arrived then, his expression dark and furious. He had been intending to discuss a partnership with Julian, and now Vivian's antics had disrupted everything. First, he gave us a quick apologetic nod. Julian, Charlotte, my apologies. I should have handled her properly before she ruined your celebration. Then, his glare snapped toward Vivian. Vivian, haven't you caused enough chaos? Leave immediately or don't blame me for what comes next. Vivian froze, confusion and disbelief written across her face. Why isn't the script working? Why aren't the guests attacking Charlotte? Why isn't Matthew regretful? Why is Julian even stronger than Matthew? How could Charlotte marry him? Why am I not the heroine? Her voice trembled, muttering to herself, No, this isn't how it's supposed to go. The script? It's all wrong. Everyone's supposed to love me. Security arrived swiftly and escorted her out. The fire and arrogance that she had when she arrived vanished, replaced by a vacant, bewildered expression. The farce was finally over. Matthew offered another sincere apology while Julian gave a quiet nod, signaling that any potential business talks would have to wait. The atmosphere quickly returned to its celebratory warmth. I looked at Julian, our fingers intertwined, sharing a private, joyful smile. I later learned that Vivian quietly left the city after Matthew's final warning and was never seen again. As for me, I embraced a new life as Mrs. Vance. I occasionally take on consulting work, but mostly I enjoy a peaceful, happy existence. The absurd chaos of drama queens, canaries, and forged authorizations was, in the end, nothing more than someone else's delusion. I had always been awake and in control, walking firmly along the path I had chosen for myself.